Hi everyone. As Lene said, I'm the other Tom in the blended learning team. It's quite funny working in a department where there's 2 Toms, 2 Marks and 1 Gina. It's only 1 Gina. Actually, just coming after what Ian was saying, it's going to be a bit difficult because my PowerPoint presentation is going to have to throw half of it out because Ian covered a lot of what I thought was valid in today's settings. I'll start off. I might actually start off with expanding on this little section. When Ian asked initially how many people have created educational media content, we had about 4 or 5 hands go up. I just want to expand a little bit more on that if I can, just open it up. Get people's experiences on the good and the bad and the ugly of creating stuff.
Don, can I just add, Don...
I noticed Don.
Don's joined us, and so Don was the subject of my case study here with his permission, so Don might be able to give some of the good, the bad and the ugly.
Yes.
I have no idea what you said about me.
It's all true. It wasn't good. It's all good.
I recorded it, please.
I might open up to everyone, but I'm glad Don's here because Don's actually an academic going through the process. You know, he has ideas. How does he visualise those ideas? Anyone else created educational resources that want to just unpack a little bit? What was their initial learning outcome they were trying to achieve? What approach they took? And the sort of the processes of getting there and the things they learnt along the way.
I could offer just work with Ian on videos. The space that we recorded in the lab is quite echoey. So that was the thing we were trying to improve on from this initial stuff. And so what you heard was a handheld recorder of this that they put, at least in the current School of Science and Health, we can offer. We have a PAL mic system now, which would hopefully get rid of some of that kind of thing.
So, sound. Actually, the workshop we're running next Friday on principles of video and audio shooting, sound is one of the biggest issues with educational video. People often ignore it. It's the poor cousin. I think if it's education, you need to hear. And sometimes hearing in an echo chamber, you're doing that, and the students aren't really concentrating on the content. They're concentrating on trying to understand what's being said in a poorly recorded audio recording.
I might just add as well, something we did for Tom's video was using one of the features within YouTube, which Joe was able to highlight, that you can add text quite easily if the audio is recorded well. So it has a good speech recognition tool within that, and it's good for access to legislation as well. So.
I think speech recognition and translation for accessibility and equity is going to be a big issue for all universities. It has been for a long time. Generally speaking, universities tend to put in the too hard basket. You know, every bit of it.
Just quickly on that topic, over in America, accessibility, universities are currently just this year starting to be sued for not providing transcripts with their videos. So give it another 5 or so years, over here it'll be mandatory to have all transcripts with videos.
That's important. I think that is coming around the corner. And in terms of the impost on staff, that's something we've got to take into consideration. What do we do about these additional resources creation and the additional having to make translations and transcripts? I think part of what we need to do when we think about creating resources about all these processes, you know, the whole planning, the production, and then the delivery, and that includes things like transcription. How are you dealing with it if a student says, look, I've got all these resources, I can't access it for this reason? How are we currently dealing with it?
It's very long, it's very convoluted, and very expensive.
Yeah. And I think that's the issue. Yeah. And well, it's here. I agree with you.
Also in terms of videos, what I found is Peter and Mark show video, and because a lot of our students have English as a second language, you may be listening to somebody explain something, but you need the text version so that you can see how the word is spelled. So you actually need the two to give them that full understanding of what's being conveyed. It helps, I mean, it ticks the disability box, but it also enhances the students with English as a second language and enhances their experience.
I think the technology is moving a long way. A lot of the systems that we were exploring, and even what YouTube's doing, the idea that technology can scan the audio frequencies or the audio recordings and make an attempt to get it accurate. It's not accurate, in my opinion. I think if it does a certain percentage of the accuracy, and then we probably need to consider how do we then make it accurate. That's something that needs exploring. At the moment, it's very expensive. These are the sorts of ideas that I think Kaltura and other systems are able to do this translation, but I haven't seen one system yet that can translate an accent.
If you use YouTube and you upload transcripts, auto caption is basically perfect for school maths. If you rely on automatic caption, it's very inaccurate. But if you have script and you upload the document, text document, it's perfect, 100%. But if you don't have transcripts, it takes a long time to write it. So it's expensive.
I think that might be a real solution for us. Part of coming from a media production background is that we often work with scripts as a project management tool and as a way of becoming very creative with your educational media resource. I think often we just push scripts aside in academia. We just go, I'll just talk. But at the same time, I'm sort of torn. I don't like saying to people you should fully script everything you say, because it often makes performances very wooden and stilted. I like to think of bullet points and guides, and sometimes you can work on that.
But even if you have a pretty starting point, and then you can obviously modify, it will still a lot more time efficient and cost efficient to do it. Let's do it at the end. So if you come to the end, caption a video, it's a 10-minute video, it's so expensive and so time consuming. So yeah, it's
Yes.
just about protecting commercial design at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. Don?
I don't know what Ian said about how I can
Nice
do
things.
but in terms of scripting things, my written communication is very stilted. But if I'm standing and talking to someone, I can ad-lib, I can get feedback from their eyes, and I can just do things differently. And so I can't, you might have seen, I couldn't script what I want to shoot. So, I don't know, did you say I set up to do some selfies? Yeah, and basically, my approach is just sitting in front of either my iPad or that little video camera and just doing a selfie. And you often have photos of me, the ones I delete, of me reaching over and saying, oh bugger, I said the wrong thing, and rewinding. Because that's how I want to learn how to script things. I can't script written language. I can write very heavy technical things. And the other thing I'll say about audio is I realised very early on using that little camera how important audio is. And also with recording lectures, I'm currently recording my lectures in Lecture Theatre 2, and the audio is absolutely shithouse. In the first lecture, I used the radio mic because I thought I've got that on me, but it didn't come across. I've discovered the only, and you can't tie yourself to a lecture theatre microphone. You can't just stand there and talk. You've got to stalk around the room. So I'm using the lavalier mic, winding myself in knots around the neck and so on. It doesn't even have a clip. It's pretty lousy too. And when we're trying to, you want us to record lectures, fine, the video's fine. Fix the bloody audio in these lecture recordings, in these lecture theatres, because it's terrible. I can't understand some of the things I'm saying when I listen to it.
We're going to do a video on microphone techniques shortly, aren't we, today? I don't know if it's going to solve your problem, Don. That might be a hardware issue. It might be a software issue. Yeah.
When I was using the radio mic, the system didn't seem to be picking it up. I only heard myself.
Whether the radio might get a flat battery, I don't know. The lavalier light works better, but it doesn't even have a decent clip on it. It's a piece of string you hang around your neck. Sorry, frustration coming out there.
That's all right.
Another way to make a transcript is just to use like dragon dictation as a free app, to record Don's voice and it automatically convert it into your transcript and typed one for you, and then you upload that to YouTube or YouTube.
Oh, 5 minutes, jeez. I'll move on very quickly. Okay, this is part of the presentation. Just have a read of that. I won't read it. I think video here as a document, it's arrived. It arrived a few years ago, but people are starting to catch up. People in the 18 to 35-year-old range, video is everywhere for them. It's there. It's a common way of communicating, not only as consumers, but as creators. I've seen lots of students doing group assignments where, say for an engineering, they're coming up with ideas and designs for their project. And they're all over Sydney, working in different and studying in different time zones. Often they'll try and write what they're doing on their part of the project. It's just not working for them. They'll whip out their little camera and record what I've designed. This is the cog that fits into this, and they'll submit that to the rest of their students in their group, and they all come back and feedback, oh, that'll fit into this bit. I'll just show you that and take a photo. So students are actually using video a lot more than we are. Okay, the good news. Like Ian, it's a fantastic time. The technology has come a long way. 10, 15 years ago, you'd have to have a camera crew and really beefy guys like me up there carrying big cameras and lights and the whole lot to get a half-decent video image for you. That's all gone. You've got tiny cameras, it's all digital, and the price has come down dramatically. There are new modes of delivery. We've mentioned a few today. Ways of publishing your content. Previously, it used to be a VHS box, and if you got one or lost it, if you didn't get one, where are you going to go find it? Now it's available and accessible anywhere, anytime. The online experience, we can personalise it with video. And I'll talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of personalising. It's a reusable resource. How many times have people repeated a lab exercise year in, year out, again and again? You think 30 students are coming, 5 turn up, they can't make it for whatever reason. So in terms of resources, reusable video is very good. The end result is user empowerment. We can do this now. If you've got the support around you and the technology and some training, it has changed. It's no longer only available to people who get funding grants or have a production unit. Now, the other side of that. It takes time to make video. You can do it in a complicated way with high production values, or you can do it by yourself with selfies. It's always a mix in between. But whatever you're going to do, you've got to plan that this is going to take some time. Initially, once you create the resource, that's where all the time goes into, and then distributing it's quite easy in comparison to creating it. There are too many modes of delivery. So I've made a video now, but I have to make it available in this format, in that format, on this device, on this time. The file size is going to be too small, or it's too big, the quality's not there. So if you've got the other side of that, there's too many choices. Personalising versus reusability. Don's creating resources for his lab. What if Don doesn't teach that resource next year? He's put all that effort into creating those resources. Will another academic pick up those resources even though it's got Don's face all over it? That's a question. What do we do in those situations? We're investing as a university into these resources, but if we over-personalise it, others might not like to use that. Lack of standards. One of the things I've been doing is talking to schools across the university about what equipment they're using, what their digital workflows are. And the reality is that we're working on the toolkit. I think that's going to be an important tool for everyone. people don't know which format, how to make it, where to send it. And there's so many standards out, it gets confusing. And for me personally, the biggest bugbear I have in terms of asking people to create resources is you're expecting them to jump over this technological hurdle. It's too high. A lot of staff don't understand how shooting in one format and editing in another format and then distributing in multiple formats out here, they don't want to know that. Once they get over that level of complexity about the technology, so all of a sudden people are allowed to become creative, think of new ways and creative ways of delivering resources. So it's that technological hurdle. Once staff get an understanding, I remember when we first came out from typewriters to Word, people initially just couldn't make the leap. Cut and paste, what's all that? We think linear. We got over that with desktop publishing. I think video and media and audio, that level of understanding is starting to creep into our sort of digital literacies. We're going to get to that level over the next few years where creating resources, videoing something, we're going to be able to do it the same way we cut and paste Word documents. But not without resources and support. If there are resources out there, and there's millions of resources out there on the web, don't go and recreate it. You just have to learn how to find it. There's lots of stuff out there. And intellectual property, the big one. People create their own intellectual property, they make it public, they are really concerned about where it goes and who sees it, who can copy it. Students feel cheated. I think it's something Dennis talked about in one of the last forums. You know, why would I come to university for a face-to-face experience and everything's on video now? I feel cheated. And support. I mentioned that before. Who do you go to? I think the good news out of this forum today, there's lots of people here, lots of expertise that I see around the room. So there are people in your schools you can go to help you to create these resources. If you can't, you can always contact us through the blended learning team and we'll plug in the gaps wherever we can. Shelf life. If you're creating a resource and putting lots of time and energy and resources into it, how long will it last? Will it be redundant in 6 months' time because all the information's changed? That's a consideration when you're making educational video resources. It's not as personal as face-to-face. People always like human interaction. The end result, it's a poor experience. So they're the two sides of creating resources. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, I'll skip through very quickly now. We talked about planning. Ian mentioned it. It's critical. You need to say to yourself, you know, are the educational themes and outcomes best communicated visually? If not, video might not be a solution. If you decide it is a visual treatment, this content, then use a script, whether it be a bullet point or whether it's something like a storyboard or even a 2-column script. Anyone seen those where you've got the audio and video track down the side? It's a very good project management tool. Helps you identify all the things that you'll need to show. And remember, video is a showing medium. If you say it on screen, you should see it on screen. It's not there to do hours and hours of content talking to a camera. We've heard complaints from people saying, all you're saying is watch my Echo 360 recording, 2-3 hour lectures. Video is not a good way to go. And digital media workflows. Is my approach achievable and is it sustainable? In other words, am I going to kill myself making hours and hours of video resources that has very little impact? Okay, I think that's the 1 minute, Gina.